Okay, and now we go on to Wednesday on Netflix. And Wednesday, this is something that I know the second it dropped, Holly, you sent a message to everybody going, "Watching Wednesday, I'm watching Wednesday," and and Wednesday has become this phenomenon. It's been memed to the girls. People are talking about all these things about how it's the one of the most watched things that Netflix have ever done, even more than Stranger Things, which sounds well, quite frankly, it's shocking. If that is true, I find that shocking. But Holly, tell us about Wednesday.
So we had 30, I'm just double checking the date. So 31 years ago, we had the film of the Addams Family
Yeah.
with Angelica Houston, Raul Julia, and Christina Ricci playing Wednesday. 2 years
Yes.
later, we had Addams Family Values, same.
Yay.
And we now pause in time whilst also moving in time and still staying modern. Wednesday is older now. She is at secondary school and the same school as her brother, Pugsley. And they are, not really enjoying it, not doing the whole sort of integration thing very well. It's when, students are mean to Pugsley, she drops piranhas in the school swimming pool. And when the unpleasant people are in there, pointing out to them that the only person allowed to torture her brother is her. Um, and now, this does not land well with the family, who her mother is played by Morticia is played by Catherine Zeta-Jones,
Yes.
and her father Gomez is played by, and my mind is now going completely blank as to his.
Luis Guzman.
Thank you. Who are much more like the original Gomez and Morticia of the 1960s series and the original cartoon, rather than Raul Julia, who was a much more suave individual.
Yeah, Gomez was a bit more grotesque to begin with,
Yeah.
and they lead into the grotesque in this.
So Wednesday is kicked out of her school, and unsurprisingly, and finds herself shipped off to the boarding school that both her parents went to, where they'd met, where her mother was this highly successful, beautiful woman who headed the fencing squad and team and had a simply marvelous time.
Think Regina George and Mean Girls.
Exactly. And Wednesday is, of course, thoroughly unimpressed by this, is planning on doing everything she can not to fit in. And you know, land, is unimpressed in the way only teenagers can be. The headmistress is played rather wonderfully by, and my mind is once again, Gwendolyn,
Gwendolyn Christie.
who, of course,
Hmm.
we have seen increasing amounts of, who
Yeah,
is rather wonderful.
good thing too.
And there are a number of other sort of key individuals involved, and making a cameo. It's not really a cameo. A part in it is Christina Ricci once more,
Yes. Yeah.
coming back, looking thoroughly different to the way she did when she was, 10. Unsurprisingly, who would have thought that 30 something years changes a person? I find it interesting, as she and I are the same age, so I look at it and think, yeah, no, that. Um, so when
I had very similar thoughts when looking up Christie. I was like, oh what? Oh yeah, okay.
so this school is one for the gifted, and the people there are generally witches, sirens, werewolves, vampires,
hmm
and no doubt other things.
Yep.
And she finds herself with the cheeriest roommate imaginable, a werewolf who loves pastels and rainbows. And Wednesday,
Called
obviously,
Enid.
called Enid, Wednesday obviously loves black morbidity and not smiling. She also has a mandated therapist because, apparently setting piranhas on a load of teenage boys is socially frowned upon. And within this environment of her unhappiness and being forced to participate, which has never landed well with her character in the films, uh, a mystery happens. There
It
start to be
it
murder.
yes, it becomes a murder mystery story. It be,
Uh, Wednesday is hell bent on finding out who done it and what's going on. And it stretches out beautifully into, is it 8 or 10 episodes?
8 episodes. It's 8 episodes.
Um, which are, up to my mind, well paced,
Yep.
very entertaining, and keep you on the edge of your seat. What would you like to add to this, Tosin?
Okay, cool. So my major exposure to the Adams Family is the 90s movies. So Adams Family, the Adams Family and Adams Family Values. Those are the Barry Sonnenfeld films with Christian Ricci as Wednesday. That's my major exposure to them.
So,
The I know there's been like TV shows in the past. There's been like two other animated movies. There's been repeated attempts to bring the Adams Family back, but that I think is still the one that in pop culture still has the highest cachet. Is the 90s movies are the ones that people think about. And so when I think about these characters, I think about that. When I think about the characterization of these characters, I think about that. What they have done here, because this show was created by Alfred Gough and Miles Miller, I believe his name is.
that could be
I
check.
think it's definitely Alfred Gough. I think it's and Miles Miller, and these guys are the same people who created Smallville. And what those guys did is that they took the whole idea of Superman and put him in a teen drama, and what they've done here is they've taken the Adams Family and they've shoved them into a teen drama. They have shoved them into the conventions of a teen drama, and I don't think the Adams Family fits in the conventions of a teen drama. I don't think the Adams Family fits in conventions, full stop. And that's the point of them. The point of the Adams Family is that they don't fit it. So you have this whole conventions because it's a teen drama. There's things that happen not because they're Adams Family ish, but because it's what happens in a teen drama. So you have Wednesday having this teenage angst, well, relationship with her mum, where they're fighting and everything like that. And I'm like, that doesn't feel like the Adams Family. That just feels like a teen drama. And the fact that you have Morticia crying because she cannot connect with her daughter. Well, when I think about the Angelica Houston version of Morticia, which for me is perfect, which for me, and I think that if the fact that in the film it would be like the kind of thing where Wednesday's antipathy towards her mother will probably sort of show up in her trying to kill her mother, and her mother will probably be so proud of Wednesday because finally she got her first axe, that kind of thing. But then you have this relationship between Morticia and Wednesday where Morticia is crying going, oh, one day I hope I can get through to you, and I'm just kind of going, that's not the Adams Family. That's not but and because they've shoved this, they put her into this school, Nevermore Academy, which is, and I say this I try and say this as kindly as I can, is a bargain basement Hogwarts. That's what it is. It's a bargain. Yeah, it's a bargain basement Hogwarts. They put it into this school, and so there's some things in there that if you've read Harry Potter or any other school set mystery, will be familiar. And so there's things that have to happen with it. So obviously she's put in with Enid, played by Emma Byers. She's put in. Oh, by the way, Wednesday's played by Jenna Ortega,
Yes.
and she's put into this room, and they share this room, and because Enid is all like rainbows and everything, and her side of the room looks like a rainbow threw up on it, and they have this stained glass window which she has covered with also rainbows things, and there's this brilliant set design that they have where Wednesday takes everything off her side and they have this room that's split down the middle. And I think that the lighting is genius because one side of the room is a rainbow, the other side of the room is pretty much black and white. And the way they do, I mean, the production design on this, brilliant. So, but because she's put with that person, you know that because these sort of things happen in a teen drama, there's going to be growing and learning happening. And Wednesday is going to grow and learn and change and become a better person by the end of the show. Because that's what happens in teen dramas. But that is not the Addams Family. So for me, my problem is that I've had this conversation. I've ended up in a WhatsApp group with superfan Nina and another friend of ours, Simon, who Simon loves all this stuff. Simon, they used to joke that anything that stereotypically like a teenage girl would like, Simon likes. So so Simon is like, oh, he's all in for this show, and he was talking about the fact that it's good because it's the characters that you saw in the 90s film, but you don't want to just rehash what happened there. You want to have a different scenario for them to go into. And I agree with that. But my problem is that I don't think it's the same characters that we saw in the 90s films. These characters are different. They are different, and so there's things about it that I just don't think work. I mean, having said that, Thane shows up, and Thane is an absolute triumph in this TV show. Thane is an absolute triumph. So, I mean, if you can accept the fact that these are different characters, not the same characters, put into a different thing, then the show does what it does all right. I mean, there's some things I have in the final episode, especially there's some really, really god awful scenes I do not like. but if you can accept the fact that these characters are different, I mean, oh, what they do to Pugsley. Pugsley is barely even an Adams in this thing. I mean, Pugsley is just kicked to the curb. And I will say that, okay, this is not me being objective whatsoever. I have a very subjective love for Pugsley, because when I saw bearing in mind, as Holly says, we are both the same age as Christina Ricci. When the first Addams Family film came out, we would have been 10. When the second one came out, we would have been 12. And so I'm looking at the screen and I'm looking at this, and who am I going to identify most in this film is the son. The son who was sidelined and was pushed out of the way because of his bigger sister, and his bigger sister tortures him, and I have a bigger sister as well. And so I identified hard with Pugsley. So at the moment, I know I am totally projecting. Totally projecting onto Pugsley. I am 100% protection. I know that. But what they do with him in this film, they've turned him into nonsense. He is rubbish in this TV show. And I've always had like almost like a starting a hashtag justice for Pugsley, because I'm like, in Addams Family Values, he gets booted to the side. Everything became about Wednesday. Nobody cared about Pugsley. I'm like, who's going to care about Pugsley? And in this show, Pugsley is quite frankly rubbish. Pugsley is barely even a character. So those are my thoughts, and I will stop talking now and take a breath. So Holly, you can tell me how much you liked it.
Well, I really did like it. I get your points, but I actually do see some evolution from the previous ones, because in Addams Family Values, Uncle Fester undoubtedly grows as a person. It's in his experiences throughout, and becomes more of an Addams in the end rather than less of an Addams. But I feel like it does have some good continuation to it. I think there are elements of, Morticia similarities between the two.
I think it's the dress, and that's about it. But sorry, carry on.
Now, you see, I can see some of the, the responses in, and I'm thinking more Addams Family Values. I can see progression in there, particularly remembering, how they reacted with sending the children to camp. It's so I feel that there was already an element of, in the second film forcing them into an enforced sort of teen environment. So it has an element of that progression. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to season 2. And seeing what happens next, because it's ridiculous. It's delightfully ridiculous. I don't disagree with the majority of what you said, but it brought me a great deal of joy.
Yeah, well, because I know. Well, actually, I don't know. I'm not sure if I am in a minority about this. This seems to be a bit of a Marmite show, and it seems to be every now and then you have a lightning rod where people seem to just go to, like, if you want to fight, go to this thing and either choose your side for it or against it. And online, it seems to be that there's people who are like for it and against it. Worst thing ever! Best thing ever! Let's fight! And I think so you mentioned the section in Addams Family Values where Wednesday and Pugsley go to a summer camp. And that is...
I mean, watch it again tonight.
I mean, honestly, even just that idea, the idea of them in the... And I think that's when the Addams Family are the best, where you put them in a situation where even the situation makes you go, oh my God. So taking Wednesday and putting her in a school full of all these supernatural beings, where it doesn't have that same thing. And I feel like the topics of the treatment of this whole idea of going to a place with authority figures and what you're going to do was done deliciously in Addams Family Values when they put them in a summer camp. And I prefer that to this. This, I feel, became too teen drama, like teen drama tropes. See, there's a love triangle. I mean, everything that you want. This is Twilight, and it's it's like it's not quite. It's better. It's better than Twilight. I'll give it that. It's but all essentially this almost conformed. And I feel like the Addams Family movies just didn't. Like, even when you talk about Uncle Fester growing, the way in which he grows is crazy. I remember John Cusack in Addams Family Values. I just think that whole thing was just genius. Brilliant. I mean, I'm going to try and stop comparing. So I'm thinking, if you are okay with the fact that they have changed the characters, which you had to do to make them conform to a teen drama format, then you're probably going to have a lot of fun with this. If you are less okay with it, like I'm less okay with it, I don't think you're going to have as good a time. Having said that, at the end of the day, I would give it a 3.
Yeah, I loved the 90s films. I love this. I'm giving it a 4.
Okay. All right, and I'll stop there because I could show you my WhatsApp threads, my WhatsApp discussion threads about Wednesday. There's a lot more I could say. There's a lot more I could bang on about, but I will not. I will show some self-restraint and not.
We can discuss it separately after this.
We can discuss it. Let me just put it this way: in the WhatsApp thread, there's a bit where I end up quoting Disenchanted of come up with a brilliant plan right at the last moment that'll solve all of our problems. That is going to become one of my quotes that I'm going to start using because that trope shows up everywhere. But